Welcome to Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. I'm Julia Elliott-Brown, the founder and CEO of Enter the Arena. I'm a serial entrepreneur and an expert in raising investment and business growth. Our mission at Enter the Arena is to empower female founders to fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business with investment expertise and business coaching. Here we share the stories of inspirational female founders who've raised investment to inspire you to do the same. You'll hear their honest accounts of what it was really like to secure funding, the highs, the lows, and the challenges they experienced on the journey. And along the way, we'll discuss top tips for how you can be successful too. Today I'm speaking with Priya Downes, the founder and CEO of Nudea. Now, Nudea is a beautiful underwear brand that's super comfortable and really fits, with contemporary designs all made from recycled fabrics. Their ethos is to be body inclusive and their approach is digital first. Priya launched Nudea in 2019, and since then the brand has grown exponentially, acquiring over 15,000 customers in the last 2 years and generating £500,000 in revenue in the process. Priya comes from a background in luxury fashion, having spent 10 years at Burberry and Chanel, as well as a few years working at the World Bank, helping to drive the sustainability agenda in the fashion industry. She has an MBA from INSEAD in Paris and is passionate about entrepreneurship and driving female leadership in the business world. Now, in 2021, Priya raised a total of £750,000 in investment to help her take Nudea to the next level. So let's meet Priya and find out how she did it and what she learned along the way. Welcome, Priya.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to see you. Love
Yeah.
your smiling face.
Yes.
Right. Let's talk about bras and knickers, one of my favorites.
Yes, let's. Absolutely.
And of course, there is no shortage of underwear brands out there. Marks and Spencer's dominating alongside, hundreds, if not thousands of niche independent brands, and lots of innovation going on in this space. And I'm really interested to know how you spotted a gap in the underwear market where you could do something new.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, it's a really exciting category, and there's so much change happening, and it is, as you say, quite competitive. There's a lot of brands out there, but what we saw in the market was the UK market's worth £3.5 billion, and Marks and Spencer's still dominates that. It owns about 32% of the market share still. And Marks and Spencer's obviously has been a mainstay of our high street for almost 30 years, particularly for bras. And what I think for a lot of modern women who want something that's a little bit more design focused, a bit more sustainable, especially in today's age, and also something that's digital first. M&S, very much still relies on the physical fitting room. Much of its sales are done through its retail stores, physical retail stores. And yes, I imagine that a lot of that did shift online, but it isn't a digital first business. And I think we saw a gap in creating something that was more modern, all round, not only from, offering a digital first option, from not just from the product point of view, but also from the fitting point of view. Nudea is digital from fitting all the way to try on, and we support bra wearers throughout that entire bra purchasing journey. But we also just wanted to make something a bit more inspiring and confidence building. And I think that for so long, bras have been sold to men. And there's a lot of bedroom lingerie brands out there, but what we really wanted to create was something that was for the modern woman by women who understand what women need. This is something that you wear every day, and it should be fit for purpose. It should be comfortable. It's something you wear close to your skin. It should be flattering, and it should suit you no matter your size or shape. And I think that's really important. And from the marketing point of view, we wanted to create something that was reflective of that. We use models that are diverse shapes and sizes, and that's something that actually other brands have been slow to pick up, but yeah, it's changing. But we saw that 3 years ago there wasn't really that, and for us that's been a mainstay ethos for us. So I think really we saw lots and lots of things that weren't really happening, and that we wanted to kind of we saw the market changing and we wanted to jump on that. So there's the idea of sustainable first, digital first, the convenience around bra shopping, but also this element of something a bit more modern for women.
Yeah, much needed, I think. I mean, the days of having to go into to M&S and have a bra fitting, I mean, very glad to see that those are going to be behind us soon.
Yes, I mean, lots of our customers say that, I mean, we know that from our own research that 80% of women are wearing the wrong bra size. But what we found is that the biggest reason for that is this inertia around getting fitted. So many women just don't bother getting fitted. Many of them never have. Lots and lots of them have not done it within sort of the last 3 to 5 years. In fact, 75% of women haven't been fitted in over 3 years. So it's a huge percentage. So it's no wonder people are wearing the wrong bra size. And if you are wearing something every day that you want it to be comfortable, it has to fit you properly. And size is a big factor of that. So, we saw that as a really important impetus to try to do something differently. And that's why we've created our own fitting tools, including our trademark fit tape, just to make it really easy for people to find their size at home, because that is the start of your bra journey. You have to get the right size in order to get the right fit, in order to get something that you actually feel comfortable wearing.
That's so important. I think women today are not prepared to wear things that aren't going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got lots of experience in the fashion sector, but where do you start with building an underwear brand like this? How did you get it off the ground?
It's a very good question. And I think like a lot of these things, it was a happy accident. I was working briefly for a brand sort of between Burberry and when I started my own brand, where I met a very senior designer who used to work a lot at Victoria's Secret. And we were at this brand, it was Fiorucci. And when we were at Fiorucci, we worked together very closely on launching Fiorucci's lingerie range. And this was a completely new category for me. Working at Burberry, I'd only really worked on, standard luxury ready to wear. So, t-shirts, trousers, accessories. And so I'd never really had exposure to lingerie at all. And it really opened my eyes. I think, it made me really evaluate what I was doing in my own purchasing behavior for lingerie. And I kind of realized how much I'd neglected it and how much I had no options. And it kind of inspired me to go, actually, this is a fantastic category to do something in. And having Sophie there, who was working with me at the time, she sort of opened my eyes to that, and together we kind of came up with the concept and the idea, and that's how it all really began. And of course, Sophie, being this veteran in the lingerie industry, had a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and that's how it all really started. And yeah, it's a very complicated category. I don't think it's nothing like making t-shirts. Lingerie is very much about engineering as much as it is about design, and you really have to know what you're doing. The fashion industry is tiny, the lingerie industry is even tinier, and it's very much about having great factory relationships, understanding how to develop product. So there's a lot of industry knowledge that's needed, and we're very lucky because we have a great advisory board, many of whom have come from lingerie backgrounds, whether it's from marketing all the way to product. So I think that all makes a difference, because it is not an easy category, and it's not an easy category from design to marketing all the way through the journey. Has its own nuances and its own challenges that really I don't think I've ever come across a product category working in fashion that's ever been so difficult. Because as you can imagine, with bras, there's a huge size range, that has inventory implications, that has product development implications. And then, when you start to get into marketing, you find that things like your ads get banned on Facebook because of what the algorithms think are nudity. And so it has so many challenges that are not that make it so unique, but also really fun.
Hugely complicated.
Yes.
And I imagine also, I'm imagining reasonably expensive for you to get that concept from idea through to creating designs, testing, producing minimum quantities, through to to launch marketing. Did it take that funding piece at the beginning? Are you talking tens of thousands, or was it a lot more to get it to that?
Oh, I mean, so we were very lucky that I was in a position to invest my own money into it, and my husband was ex-venture capital, and together we had a bit of money set aside that we wanted to put towards the business, and we did. And our plan was always to put a couple of 100,000 into it to get it to a minimum of our proposition, so to get it to launch. And that's exactly what we did. Of course, when we launched, it was right before COVID, and we wanted to go to the market, and our plan was to raise right after we launched. And I definitely count myself lucky. We didn't have to worry about raising when we didn't have a product. We didn't have a website. I think it's really challenging to raise when you've just got a concept and a business plan. But I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's harder. And I think because we were able to fund it ourselves, we could just get going quicker and just focus on kind of getting something up and running and something tangible for investors to look at. And that was our plan. But of course, when that time arrived, it was right before COVID, and we started to have initial conversations with investors, and we were really going after angels. We weren't looking to raise a massive round. But still, I think there was a massive flight to risk. People were panicking. Nobody knew what COVID was about then. And, we were very worried about not wasting a lot of time, but, not maybe getting the best deal. So we basically just stopped. I took a decision to just stop trying and just buckle down, try to, pull the purse strings a bit tighter, and just try and find a way to make it through a few more months and perhaps start again. Those few months turned into, in the end, 18 months. So we didn't actually close our first external raise until about 16, 17 months later. But I think it was the best thing we did. I think it helped bump up our valuation. It helped get us to, at least 12 months of revenue. And we did really well in the first 12 months. You can imagine our brand is built for the COVID generation and post-pandemic generation. Everyone shifted online. Our tape was a massive hook through the pandemic. We got tons and tons of PR, and we achieved a lot in those first 12 months. And so being able to stretch ourselves, although it was challenging, I think was one of the best things we did. And in the end, it made, when everybody was ready with their checkbooks after COVID had calmed down, investors sort of found their feet again. We were able to kind of raise a lot more easily, a lot more quickly. Investing always takes time, so I'm not saying we did it in weeks, but it certainly would have taken a lot longer had we persisted the first time around. And so and it kind of made for a successful raise at the time. And it was a challenging first 12 months, but exciting because we were on the right side of the pandemic as a business. So, and we achieved a lot in those first 12 months. And a lot of those achievements went to, increasing our valuation and getting us a better deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much hustle you can do when you've got no resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Very creative when you have to act like that. And also I think great that you recognize very quickly that you would have been banging your head against a brick wall to try and do that raise, because first time raises in 2020 went, through the floor.
Yeah.
Investors just pushed all their money into their existing portfolio and into further stage businesses. It was really, really hard for first time founders. So
100%. Yeah, and I think also it's challenging enough, and I think we're going to talk about that later, about being a consumer brand very early on, and I think that would only have made it even more challenging, at that time, being so early. So I think it was ended up being the right thing to do.
Yeah. I just say, so then you decided when you were then ready to go out and speak to angels. So let's talk about that round, because it is hard, isn't it, as a founder of a consumer brand, particularly in fashion, to find the right investors, because so many investors will just say, no, I'm only interested in tech, I'm only interested in B2B. How did you go about it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the challenge with fashion and retail, and you opened on it when you first introduced the brand and myself, is that it is crowded. There's a lot of brands out there. There's a lot of brands that want to be here, and I think that it's really hard for investors to see, because it's a feeling, it's a gut. Brands are emotional. It's not as straightforward as a tech model or a B2B model, and so it's makes that a bit more challenging. And also I think a lot of brands really benefit from investors that are from the retail space, because they understand it. And I think a lot of people who've come from the retail background and are the best investors, because they understand how to build brands. And there's very few of them around. So, all of these challenges sort of present, a very small pool of investors who are interested, and an even smaller pool of investors who are interested and can add value. So that does make it challenging. And, what I sort of went after was spent a lot of time reaching my own network. I'm lucky, having gone to INSEAD, that I've got a rich network of people who are savvy investors, and just spent a lot of time. And I think in those 12 months that I wasn't able to raise, I actually built an investor map. I spent time kind of looking at my own network, looking at other deals that have happened in the retail space that I was aspiring to, and working backwards and saying, well, how did they get there? How did they get that path to that great VC fund that they raised £20 million from? Where did they start? Like, what was their journey? Who were they key people in the early days? Were they angels? Were they funds? And looked at sort of, scout, like literally was on Companies House for hours, sort of scouting similar companies and looking at their journeys and saying, who are are there common angels? Is there sort of an investor base of angels that are, like whose name appears, often along these deals? And I just kind of targeted them. I said, right, I'm going to go after a targeted bunch of people and a bunch of investors that I know are going to be interested in what I do. They may not necessarily like it, but at least I'm in the right ballpark. And that's really how it started. And then very early on in my fundraising plan, I came across Cornerstone, and they're absolutely amazing bunch of people, and great network of angels. And actually they helped me as well, because they gave me my first term sheet, and they said, right, you want to raise a bit more, we can't do your whole round, but here we can help you get to the rest of it. And they were really great. They introduced me to a lot of people, and that's how the ball got rolling. And I think once you've kind of got one term, you've got one offer, it then sort of snowballs, doesn't it? Because you've kind of got then something in your back pocket to go to other investors with, and then it just becomes easier. But yeah, it's just nailing that first one. I was lucky to get Cornerstone, But it was very, it was very strategic. I did spend a lot of time doing my homework, and that would be my advice to anyone. Really spend time kind of focusing on companies that you aspire to, or that you think you kind of admire their fundraising strategy, and work backwards and say, well, what did they do? How did they do it? Who were some of the key players? And really, that's how I've done it, and that's how I will continue to do it. When I look at my next raise, I'll be following a path that I researched and spent time looking at. And of course, the investor market's always evolving, so you have to keep refreshing that. But for me, it's the strategy that I think is probably the best one, because you could spend a lot of time, basically sending cold emails and not really getting anywhere, and it can be quite disheartening as well. So yes, I mean, you have to have a strong stomach for it. You have to obviously be prepared for people not liking your business, critiquing it, rejecting you. And believe me, you will get that, right? You will get not every single person is going to like you, but you just need one or two that believe in you, and there is someone out there that will. And then once you've got it, then it's kind of a snowball. Investors are kind of amazingly not like sheep, but they are very, very much, once you've kind of got one person to back you, they then kind of go, okay, well, in that case, I'm ready to help you too. So there is this sort of momentum thing that you need to build. Similarly to crowdfunding, once you kind of got one person in, everybody's like, oh, I kind of want to be in too. So you just have to get that first one.
Yeah, I mean, the desk-based research pays off in spades, and it feels at the time like it's taking up a lot of your day, but the amount of effort, wasted effort that you cut out as a consequence is huge. And as you said, it's so right. Once you get that first investor, it just de-risks it for everybody else, and also kind of ups the ante on the FOMO front, because nobody else wants to miss it.
Yes, exactly.
Cornerstone are in, this must be good, so.
And I think it's also psychological. I mean, I'm not a natural salesperson. I'm the first person to admit it. And there are times when you are pitching and you can get disheartened. You can kind of go, maybe my confidence isn't seeping through, because I've come off the back of 10 rejections, and now I'm doing another pitch that I feel a bit like, and you can't underestimate the power that sometimes just having one person support you and kind of go, yes. And then suddenly you kind of feel, I mean, I certainly felt myself being a bit more confident, going forward, and then pitching to investors, knowing that, and knowing that I've got somebody that backs me, and, that I've got that yes. And that also helps you with your pitch, I think.
Yeah, confidence is such an important factor, isn't it? And it's,
yes,
if you can figure out a way to step into that confidence even before you've got that first yes, then you can radiate that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When you've got that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, no in a row, to keep picking yourself up off the floor is. But that's what it takes as an entrepreneur, isn't it? That resilience to just keep on going until you get what you need.
Yeah, and I think you do have to prepare yourself. I think that's always my advice to anyone starting a business, is that, if you are a founder, you are partly chief sales officer for raising money, and that you have to be prepared to have a strong stomach for it, because it is there are a lot of investors out there, and it's a big haystack, and you're looking for a needle, and you will get a lot of people saying no, and also critiquing your business, giving you negative feedback, being quite critical. And you have to be able to deal with that, and know that, and continue to, believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing. And that is tough, but, if you're prepared for it, and as you said, like you sort of have tactics to kind of pick yourself up again, and, get that confidence back and put your game face on and keep going, then that's exactly what's needed.
Yes, I mean, it can feel sometimes like you are just constantly fundraising when you're building a high growth business, but having good support around you is really important, isn't it? And you mentioned earlier about your advisory board. And it's great to hear. My view is that it's never too soon to start building that advisory board, because they can help you in so many ways. What's your view on that? Did you bring those people on board quite early?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So we were really lucky that we had some really good industry experts who wanted to be on our advisory board. And I think for us that's credit. Not only do they help you, not only do they bring their expertise in guiding you on how to grow the business, but they also are great ambassadors, and particularly when you are trying to fundraise, having ambassadors in the industry who are going to shout about you and leverage their own contacts and say, look, I'm working for this, I'm advising this great brand. Check it out, take a look at it. I'm involved. I'm advising them. I think that also has a lot of weight. But fundamentally, it is important to have a good advisory board, good advisors, because it's not always going to be easy. You're not always going to do things right, and you have to want to do. You're doing the best for the business, and you want to pull as much expertise as you can. So trying to get some really good advisors who know the industry, who know your category, and can perhaps fill the knowledge gaps that you don't have as a founder or the founding team don't have, then it's a really great way to leverage that. And I think as a startup as well, you can't pay people big tickets. So having advisors who are willing to give up their time, if you're very lucky, for free, or willing to sort of give up their time for a bit of equity, or willing to give up their time for a small consultancy fee, is a price worth paying. So I think it's definitely worth trying to get some good advisors in. And on a personal level, having good mentors. Maybe they're not people who know anything about your business or your category, but they know you very well, or they've worked with you in the past. And I think that's really important. I mean, I've had personal mentors who are not on our advisory board, but they have personally guided me through my own journey, and they know me, and they know my aspirations and my passions, and they want me to be the best that I can be, and a success. And so they're the ones that are going to be honest. They're the ones that are going to say to you, have you thought about this? They're going to be critical, ask you the difficult questions. And again, all this is so valuable for when you want to go fundraise, because you do want to try to bat out and know the answers to all the difficult questions when you get them, because you will get them. And so it's best to kind of know how to deal with them early, and maybe even crack them early. If an advisor gives you feedback and says maybe you just need to work on this before you go for a fundraise, I would strongly suggest you do it. So I think it's really valuable to surround yourself early on with a good advisory board for your business, but also personal mentors who have your best interests at heart, and then indirectly have the best interests of your company at heart, because they want you to do the best, and they're going to be critical, and that's great.
Yeah, fully prepare for that investment raise. And as you say, having that extended team, those advisors with skills and experience, very attractive for investors. Obviously, your business itself is very attractive to investors because they can see the potential, they can see the gap that you're filling in the market. Those are two things I know that made investors feel very attracted to you. What about the valuation? Let's have a chat about that. How hard was it to kind of figure out, like, okay, I think I've got this great business, but what on earth is it worth? What's the price?
Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, I think obviously once you've had your first raise, it then isn't it's sort of a little bit out of your hands after that. But when you're doing your first raise, it is challenging, isn't it? I think that when we did our sort of first term sheet deal, it was a lot of haggling. You would expect to be haggled, and that's natural and that's normal. I think, being the person I am, I'm quite logical. I'm not particularly, how do you put it? I do things quite sort of mathematically, and I did sort of take quite a mathematical approach and was quite sensible about it. I looked at similar companies at our stage, did some industry benchmarking, and then looked at our revenues and where we were and how much money we put into it. And all these factors, meant that I came up with a valuation that was sensible. Like when I went to investors and I sort of said, this is what I think my company's worth, they were like, it doesn't sound too off kilter. Because I think a lot of the time it is one of the first questions that investors ask you. And if you do have a crazy number, they almost shut the conversation down. They'll be like, oh no, yeah, no, So I think having sort of opening up with a sensible-ish valuation, I think, is a much warmer way to start the conversation. And I feel like that helped me, because I didn't go with something crazy. And the way that I sort of tested that was I went to my advisors and said, look, hey, I want to raise around, this is what we think it should be. What are your thoughts? And, spoke to some friendly investors that perhaps I wouldn't pitch to, but they, they're different sectors, and said, look, this is my company. This is the revenue rate we're at. This is, how much you've grown in the first year. This is how much money we've put in. What are your thoughts? And they were like, yeah, sounds about right. And I think that again is research you have to put into it. I wouldn't, you really can't just pluck a number out of the sky and hope for the best. Again, I think the most valuable thing you can do is industry benchmarking. Look at companies that have raised at a similar point in their journey, and then adjust it for where you are with your journey, i.e., is your revenue the same as them? Probably not. So you can adjust it for that. And how much money have you put in that's already gone in versus what they have, and then adjust it that way. And then, when we went to Cornerstone, we had a valuation in mind, and actually they weren't that, they weren't that far off, and we had a little bit of negotiation, but in the end, we walked away with something that I think I was in the ballpark of thinking that's about right, and they were like, that's about right. So and then ever since then, obviously it's been set by well, we haven't had to raise another multiple, but I think the next round will be another question about what the valuation should be. But yes, it is a question. It is a difficult one, but I think there are ways to get to sensible numbers, and it is important to get to a sensible number, because you can put investors off if you have a crazy valuation.
Got to be in the right ballpark, that's for sure.
I think so, yeah.
And then it's about doing everything you can to push your valuation up to the top of that ballpark, I think.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Then gives you more wiggle room, to do those further raises without selling too much equity. Make sure that you've still got, enough control of the business. So on that note, in terms of fundraisers, so you did an initial round, I think it was 600, and then another 150.
Yeah.
And then now you're going out to crowdfund. In fact, actually, when this episode comes out, I think you will be in the middle of that crowdfund.
Yes. An exciting new journey, which I'm learning a lot about as we live and breathe it.
So you've got angels on board. What was behind the decision to go out and now crowdfund for the business?
A couple of things. I think that we felt the timing. We wanted to. We've just, a lot of things happening in the business. Like, we've just launched with John Lewis, and we are waiting for our B Corp certification. And there's a few things that we really wanted to sort of get under our belt before we went for sort of a really big round, which is what we're hoping for in our next round, sort of a more VC based type of round. And so just the timing of the business operations and how fast we were moving, and the direction just meant that we needed to have a cash injection. And we always planned, when we did our initial round last year, that we would go for a funding raise at the beginning of this year. That was always the plan. So we knew that was going to happen. It was just a question of how we were going to raise at this point. And initially we had thought it would be VC or bigger funds. And then I think because of what was happening in the business, we just felt we wanted to wait a little bit longer and get some of those wins under our belt before we went and get ourselves into a really strong position to pitch to VCs. And so I think that was one reason. And the other reason really was because we wanted to build an army of brand ambassadors. Lingerie is a category that's very much about repeat purchasing, loyalty, telling your friends about it. And we know that from our own marketing efforts. We know that the best performing channels for us are referrals, are PR, endorsement based. And that, it's one of those categories where, like, if I ask you, I can ask you where you got your jumper from because it's very visible, but I wouldn't say to you, where'd you get your bra from? So it relies on people kind of saying, oh, I bought this amazing bra, you need to try it. And I think that you can't underestimate the power of that. And we certainly know that it's a very, very loyal category. And we wanted to use the crowd fund as a way to build people, build an army of brand ambassadors. And that's, again, a real notch to have on our belt before we go for a bigger raise. So this is very much a strategic stepping stone to a bigger raise. But, it was also coincided with things that were happening in the business that meant that we felt like, let's do this. And we've got our amazing angels backing us that can kind of lead this, and we can leverage it and make it a huge success. And fortunately, fingers crossed it stays that way, we've had a really, overwhelming amount of interest. And already, 24 hours into our initial preview, we've already hit our target. So I think it's been amazing to see the support and the demand, I guess, for wanting to be part of our journey. And that's what we wanted to create. It was as much of a PR exercise as it was a fundraising exercise. And in fact, it probably, like I said, we already had a fair chunk of our target in the, from our angels. So really it was more for the PR, more to build that ambassador, that army of ambassadors.
And exciting to get your customers involved as well and give them a sense of ownership of the brand as it moves forward.
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of our customers have signed up, which is incredible to see. And some customers actually giving quite a bit, and you're just overwhelmed by that. And I think that's just brilliant. That's the power of crowdfunding. And I can't wait to see what happens when we go public, and the wider world can see our brand and see what happens then, because obviously at the moment it's still in preview, so it's a lot of contacts and people we kind of already know and customers that know us. But I feel like it's a really brilliant way to create some buzz.
Super exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting.
What are the next plans then, Priya? I mean, obviously, so you're in John Lewis, which is really exciting. Are you going to pursue more working with more retailers? What are you doing? Kind of, are you focusing on the UK?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we're sort of raising this round as well is to support that. We're about to launch as Zalando in Europe, and again, going back to timing, that was also one of the reasons why we wanted to launch that and get that up and running. And the European market is 4 times the size of the UK, and it's an amazing opportunity for us to really test a new geography without investing into expensive logistics in the post-Brexit world. And so we are looking at, and the raise is going to support widening more of our distribution, and we see this as a really great way to build our brand awareness. So John Lewis is fantastic because they've got 12 million customers, and we get to benefit from that, that halo effect. And so for us, we're not looking to, have 1,000 stockists all over the world. What we're looking for is strategic partners that will help really build brand awareness, help us in new geographies, but really, again, support our online business. We will always remain our sort of D2C online first, and a lot of these stockists are there to support that. And I think that it echoes where customers are going. You know, customers want an omni-channel approach. They want to be able to shop online, but that doesn't mean we should ignore physical. And particularly in the post-pandemic world, people are returning to a bit more of a normality with respect to being out and about. And whilst I totally understand why the likes of Topshop and Debenhams didn't survive the pandemic, I think it is opening up businesses to the challenge of this new world. And how do we make physical exciting? How do we make that whole kind of shopping experience in a retail store more exciting and more attractive to customers? And I think that's some of the challenges that we have thrown on ourselves. You know, we want to be part of, we recognize that there is a big shift online, but that doesn't mean we should ignore other ways to reach people and reach customers. And, you know, we're lucky because, you know, we've started on that journey of partnering with retailers, and we will continue to do that. And physical is one way we'll look at it. Geography is another, and, you know, big retail partners. And I think that it's important, right? Because customers do shop at John Lewis and they also shop with us. And I think that we should recognize that. And that's kind of something that we will continue to do going forward. And it's a big plan for us in 2022 is to kind of find more strategic partners. And then, you know, we want to obviously start looking at new categories that we can bring our Nudea ethos. So we see, as you said, comfort not going away. You know, this work from home culture, this sort of blurring of lines between personal and work is here to stay, really. You know, I don't think, you know, most companies now have gone down the route of flexi working. I don't think, you know, there's a lot of people talking about returning to the office 5 days a week, which means, you know, things like comfort wear, lounge wear are opportunities that are going to just get bigger. So what we're trying to do is offer, you know, more loungewear hybrid pieces. So underwear that is more comfortable, non-wired, loungewear, looking at sleepwear this year as well. So these are some of the things that we are trying to do this year to sort of opportunize what's happening in the retail world and what's happening in the consumer world.
Fantastic. It's so exciting. I feel very compelled now to do two things. One is to go and refresh my underwear drawer, because I think I need some of your underwear. And two is definitely to go and check out your crowdfunding campaign.
Yes, please do. I would, you know.
And we'll put all the links in the show notes so that everybody can see them. So amazing. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the very best with your crowdfund.
Thank you, Julia. It's really nice to talk to you.
You're going to smash it. You've already smashed it, but you're going to totally.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Fingers crossed. But yes, hope it stays this way, and it's obviously a great problem to have. So, but you know, we always want people's support. So please, if you can, check it out. It'll be amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Priya. Best of
luck.
No
problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for following Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. This content is all provided to you for free, so if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe so you never miss another one. Enter the Arena has helped hundreds of female founders fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business. Our first-hand experience, expert guidance, and proven programs help female founders unleash the Wonder Woman inside. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to www.enterthearena.co.uk. I'm Julia Elliott Brown, and I look forward to talking with you soon.